Episode 1. The Birth of a Genius, 1452-1466. Leonardo da Vinci was born on April 15, 1452, in the small village of Vinci near Florence, Italy. His full name was Leonardo di Ser Piero da Vinci, literally, Leonardo, son of Piero from Vinci. His father, Ser Piero, was a respected notary, while his mother, Caterina, was a peasant woman. Because Leonardo was born out of wedlock, he was considered illegitimate, which meant he could not pursue certain professions or inherit his father's wealth. Yet this unusual status gave him freedom. It removed him from the rigid expectations of the elite and allowed him to explore the world in his own way. Leonardo spent much of his childhood roaming the countryside. Surrounded by the rolling hills, rivers, and forests of Tuscany, he developed an intense fascination with nature. He observed the movement of water, the flight of birds, the structure of plants, and the anatomy of animals. Unlike children who learned mostly from books, Leonardo learned by looking, touching, and experimenting. Although he did not receive a strong formal education in Latin or Greek, he excelled in drawing. His notebooks from later years show an endless stream of sketches: cats, flowers, landscapes, and even imaginative machines. By age 10, his talent was already noticed, and his father proudly kept his drawings. This early spark of curiosity and observation set the foundation for Leonardo's future as both an artist and a scientist. Episode 2. Apprenticeship in Florence, 1466-1482. At just 14 years old, Leonardo's father recognized his son's talent and sent him to Florence to train in the workshop of Andrea del Verrocchio, one of the most respected artists of the time. Verrocchio's studio was not only a place for painting, it was a laboratory of creativity where apprentices learned sculpture, metalworking, mechanics, and architecture. Here, Leonardo was exposed to every aspect of Renaissance art and craft. He learned to mix pigments, prepare canvases, carve marble, and design stage sets. But what set him apart was his relentless curiosity. He would take apart machines just to understand how they worked, and study people's expressions to capture emotion in his art. One famous story tells that in Verrocchio's The Baptism of Christ, Leonardo painted an angel so beautiful and realistic that it surpassed his master's skill. According to legend, Verrocchio was so impressed and perhaps humbled that he vowed never to paint again. During this time, Leonardo also began keeping notebooks filled with inventions, diagrams, and sketches. He experimented with anatomy, engineering, and geometry, blending science and art in a way no one else had done before. Florence, with its bustling energy and intellectual atmosphere, provided the perfect environment for this budding genius to grow. Episode 3. The Milan Years and the Last Supper, 1482-1499. In 1482, seeking new opportunities, Leonardo left Florence and entered the service of Ludovico Sforza, Duke of Milan. Unlike most artists who promoted their painting skills, Leonardo introduced himself as a military engineer. He offered designs for bridges, cannons, armored vehicles, and even early versions of helicopters and submarines. His ambition was clear. He wanted to be more than just a painter. While in Milan, Leonardo created one of his greatest masterpieces, The Last Supper, 1495-1498, painted on the wall of the convent of Santa Maria delle Grazie. Unlike earlier depictions of this biblical scene, Leonardo captured the exact moment Jesus announces that one of his disciples will betray him. The apostles' shock, confusion, and disbelief are painted with extraordinary realism. The perspective draws the viewer's eye directly to Christ, making the scene dramatic and emotionally powerful. At the same time, Leonardo continued designing incredible machines, flying contraptions inspired by bats, tanks powered by cranks, and advanced irrigation systems. Though most of his inventions were never built, his notebooks prove how far ahead he was of his time. Milan became Leonardo's laboratory, where art, science, and engineering merged. Episode 4. Return to Florence and the Mona Lisa, 1500-1516. After the French invaded Milan in 1499, Leonardo returned to Florence. Here, he began work on what would become the world's most famous portrait, the Mona Lisa. Believed to depict Lisa Gherardini, the wife of a wealthy merchant, the painting was unlike anything the world had ever seen. Her mysterious smile, the softness of her skin, and the atmospheric background created a lifelike presence that seemed almost alive. Leonardo carried the Mona Lisa with him for years, constantly refining it, treating it less as a commission and more as a personal masterpiece. During this period, Leonardo also dissected human cadavers, making detailed drawings of muscles, bones, and organs. His studies of anatomy were centuries ahead of their time, revealing the inner workings of the human body with extraordinary precision. Leonardo's reputation as a master grew, but he was also criticized for leaving projects unfinished. He was more interested in pursuing ideas than completing commissions. This restless curiosity, however, is what allowed him to make discoveries no one else dared to explore. Episode 5. The scientist, inventor, and engineer Leonardo da Vinci's genius went far beyond painting. His notebooks, filled with over 7,000 pages of sketches and ideas, show that he was one of the greatest inventors and scientists in history. He designed flying machines modeled after birds, an armored tank, a giant crossbow, and even diving suits for underwater exploration. He studied optics and light, experimenting with how the human eye perceives depth and color. He investigated geology, hydraulics, and architecture, designing an ideal city with canals and waste systems that anticipated modern urban planning. Perhaps most impressive were his anatomical studies. He dissected dozens of human bodies, making detailed notes on the heart, muscles, and brain. His sketch of the human fetus in the womb remains one of the most remarkable scientific illustrations ever made. Although many of his inventions were never built, his way of thinking, blending observation, creativity, and experimentation, shaped the foundation of modern science and engineering. Leonardo wasn't just solving problems of his time, he was imagining solutions for the future. Episode 6. Final Years in France and Legacy, 1516 to 1519. In his later years, Leonardo accepted an invitation from King Francis I of France, who admired him greatly. In 1516, he moved to Amboise, France, where he lived in the manor house of Clos-Lucé. The king called him the first painter, engineer, and architect of the realm. Though his health was declining, he suffered paralysis in his right hand. Leonardo continued to sketch, teach, and dream. He brought with him several paintings, including the Mona Lisa, which he continued to refine. On May 2, 1519, Leonardo da Vinci passed away at the age of 67. Legend has it that King Francis was by his side, mourning the loss of his friend. His loyal student, Francesco Melzi, inherited his manuscripts and carried on his legacy. Leonardo left behind not only masterpieces like The Last Supper and Mona Lisa, but also a vision of human potential. He proved that art and science are not separate, but deeply connected. His insatiable curiosity, boundless imagination, and pursuit of knowledge made him the ultimate Renaissance man. Today, more than 500 years later, Leonardo's work continues to inspire artists, scientists, and dreamers across the world.